Joining us is the Parliamentary Panel Chief on Science and Technology, Mr. Jairam Ramesh. Sir, welcome to Sansad TV and thank you so much for joining us. The committee, Science and Technology, Climate and Forest Change, presented a very important report today. Take us through the key highlights.
Well, we have submitted our report on the Wildlife Protection Amendment Bill 2021. We had a deadline of April 24th and we have submitted our report 3 days in advance. It's a very important bill. It brings about major amendments in the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 to fulfill India's commitments to international agreements, to improve the management of protected areas, to address the concerns of the wildlife conservation community, also address the infrastructure needs of the local communities living in and around the protected areas, and in general to strengthen the effectiveness of the Wildlife Protection Act. India is a world leader in wildlife conservation and protection. I think that was because of the Act of 1972. These amendments will further enhance the value of the Act, and I am expecting that the Ministry will accept our recommendations and we will pass these amendments in the monsoon session of Parliament.
So, one of the biggest takeaways as far as the recommendations are concerned?
Well, the biggest takeaway is that, it's always a compromise. Wildlife Act, environment, biodiversity, nature protection is always a compromise because we are not like any other country in the world. We have demographic pressure, we have developmental needs, so we have to strike a balance between protection and development, between conservation and economic growth, and that's what the committee has done. For example, we have talked about providing drinking water supply to people living in protected areas. Unless people living in protected areas have a stake in the protection of those areas, you can't do a top-down protection of these areas. Local people have to develop an interest, a stake in the protection of these sanctuaries and wildlife areas. And I think these amendments are important. The government has been very receptive, I must say, very receptive to the recommendations that we have made. I've had discussions with the Ministry, with the Minister, and they have said that they welcome the changes that the Ministry has. There was a big concern in India that these amendments would open the door for trade in elephants.
Yes.
The सोनपुर मेला हुआ करता था, जहाँ हाथी असम से आया करते थे, उत्तर बंगाल से आया करते थे और वहाँ हाथी बेचा जाता था, और केरल और तमिलनाडु और कर्नाटक के मंदिरों के लिए। तो एक ऐसा प्रावधान था बिल में, जो बिल लोकसभा में पेश किया गया था दिसंबर के महीने में, एक प्रावधान था जिससे सारे देश में एक हलचल मच गया कि सरकार संशोधन लाना चाहती है कि हाथियों का व्यापार का उदारीकरण हो रहा है। तो उस पर हमने काफ़ी चर्चा की, कई लोगों से हमने बातचीत की और एक हमने बीच का रास्ता ढूंढ निकाला है। हमारे देश में ख़ास तौर से दक्षिण भारत के राज्यों में हाथी आज भी मंदिरों में मौजूद हैं। हमारे देश में करीब 30,000 जंगली हाथी हैं, वाइल्ड एलिफेंट। इस आबादी में करीब 2,500 या 3,000 हाथी मंदिरों में देवालयों में पाया जाता है। उसको हम बंद नहीं कर सकते क्योंकि वो हमारी संस्कृति का एक अंग है, अटूट अंग है, हमारी परंपरा है वो। तो कैसे ये बीच का रास्ता ढूंढ निकाला जाए ताकि हाथी का व्यापार का उदारीकरण न बने, पर फिर उसके साथ साथ मंदिरों का जो हक बनता है हाथी रखने के लिए, उससे हम कोई गड़बड़ न करें।
Point well taken. Thank you so much for talking to us. Reporting from Parliament with camera person Junaid, I'm Kriti Mishra for Sansad Television.